the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present with the exception of Councilman Claybaugh. There is a copy of the Open Meetings Act posted on the west wall and is accessible to the public at any time during the course of this meeting. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. First item on the agenda is item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all materials, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. Item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Item D, approval of minutes of regular meeting on March 5th, 2018, as on file in the City Clerk's office. Item E, approval of Treasurer's report of claims in the amount of $212,845.94. Item F, approval of Boswell report of claims in the amount of $73,562.74. Item G, approval of change order number 4, an increase in the amount of $3,000, and pay request number 4 in the amount of $28,100 to Masonry Construction, Inc. for the Municipal Auditorium Repairs 2017. Item H, approval of work change directive number 1, an increase in the amount of $9,245, and pay request number 1 in the amount of $72,750 to Philip Karkowski Construction for the WPC bar screen replacement, as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Item I, approval of special designated license application of Community Players, Inc. for a reception launch event to be held on April 20th, 2018, from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at 412 Ella Street, Beatrice, Nebraska. Item J, a resolution number 6192, reappointing Zachary Coffin to the Beatrice Board of Public Works for a term expiring April 1st, 2023. Item K, resolution number 6193, granting permission to the Beatrice Area Chamber of Commerce and their designees to sell or offer for sale or peddle goods, wares, or merchandise in Charles Park on July 14th, 2018 between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. as part of their motorcycle show. Item L, resolution number 6194, executing the OAP and high deductible amendment to the City of Beatrice Board of Public Works Employee Health Plan. Item M, resolution number 6195, executing an agreement with the Nebraska Commission on Law Enforcement, wherein the Commission agrees to provide funds to the City of Beatrice to purchase and install hardware equipment for vehicles. And finally, item N, resolution number 6196, executing the amendment to the license agreement with Tyler Technologies, Inc. to add software and services. Any item that any council member wants removed from the consent agenda? Anyone? Phil?
K.
Item K. Thank you. Anyone else on the council? Anyone from the public? Mr. Catlin?
Mayor, I would move that all the items listed under the consent agenda, with the exception of item K, be approved, accepted, and are ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, that all items under the consent agenda be approved. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Item K.
Mayor, I would move that item K, resolution number 6193, granting permission to the Beatrice Area Chamber of Commerce and their designees to sell or offer for sale or peddle goods, wares, or merchandise in Charles Park on July 14th, 2018 between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. as part of their motorcycle show be accepted, approved, or ratified as presented.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that resolution number 6193, granting permission to the Beatrice Area Chamber of Commerce for the motorcycle show. Phil?
The only reason I pulled it off, I think the motorcycle group's here, and maybe they want to tell us a little bit about what they're...
Is there someone who wants to make the presentation? Just tell us what you're going to
I
do
figured
and
if
what
you
your
rode
plans
the
are.
motorcycle here, you probably want to...
3 of them.
Just come on up, if you would, please. If you would state your name and address, just for the record. I'd appreciate it. You can have a chair.
My name is Vinny DeAndre. I live at 715 High Street. What we're looking to do is have a motorcycle, what we call a show and go. We call it the cage-free biker fair. We want to have a little small biker rodeo with the street shut off over here, as well as a bike show, and there'll be awards, and afterwards we're going to make a run out and run back,
Okay.
ending at the Legion.
Counselor, anything?
I'll just, we didn't know if you're going to pull it, but I'll just say this. The Lord's Adventist, the motorcycle club, has helped with the car show last couple of years, and especially this last year during Homestead Days. They've been a great help, great group of volunteers for us. They came and said, hey, let's do a motorcycle show. So chamber staff talked about it, chamber board talked about it. I said, yeah, it's a new event, something new. We picked a date outside of Homestead Days just for something to do in July. This group has, these guys and gals, that they're doing the work. They know what they're doing, and it's just a good time. It's during the day, have the show, have some little events. Some might be kind of interesting and fun to watch, like who can go the slowest down the street.
Without tipping over?
Without touching. And I'll say this, when I mentioned a wiener bite contest, my partner, Lee Timon, knew all about it. When he was in grade school, he won the event in Topeka, Kansas, in the youngsters event. Then he bothered to tell me he was the only entry. But it's just to have a good time, to have some music, and these guys and gals get to show off bikes, and we can get some other people in town to show off their bikes.
Another thing I'd like to mention is we're actually donating the money to the Veterans Memorial and also St. Jude's.
Excellent.
So
Any
it's a
que-
fundraiser for them, and it's great for the community.
I was just gonna. He mentioned the money going to the fundraising, but he beat me to it. So.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from anybody from the audience? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Benny, nice seeing you again. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Resolution 6193 has been passed and adopted. Next item on the agenda is the presentation of the Auditors Report and Comprehensive Annual Financial Review. Auditors are with us today, and Chris Linder, you're going to lead the charge.
That I am. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Chris Linder, audit partner with BKD CPAs in Lincoln, Nebraska. I also have with me tonight Abby Dobson is one of our audit managers that has worked with the city on their audit for several years now. So wanted to have her with me as well. And I'll just cover some things from a very high level. I have a few slides to go through just to touch on a few things. But as we go through things, if you have questions, you want me to clarify anything that I mentioned or anything else in the report, definitely let me know and I'll answer what I can. So I believe in the packets provided to you, and I think electronically, there should be a copy of this, so it doesn't look quite as intimidating. Well, the financial report, I believe also then the letter, there's a copy of a letter as well, hard copy that you would have. Electronically, then you'd have a copy of the comprehensive annual financial report, so it's the full financial report of the city along with some additional detail and schedule. So again, just to give kudos to the staff at the city, Linda Cook and everyone there for putting this together, and especially I know Linda has a lot of hard work in doing this, and this is really a document that's done by the city. So as part of our process as an audit, we come in and audit this. This is not something we prepare, we put together, Linda does that, and then we place our opinion as part of this report. So again, there's a lot of effort that goes into something this comprehensive, so kudos for doing that again, and is submitted, the city does submit that to the Government Finance Officers Association to receive a certificate, making sure that you've met the requirements for that and that all the pieces that they would require to be part of that report are in there as well to receive that certificate. So the city's, in here you'll see last year's certificate, and then the city will go for that again So again, it's a good program and something that is from the city as a whole to kind of take a little bit of pride in something and having this type of report. That's not something that all cities do. Touching on a few things from the financial highlights of the year. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Aaron. From a fiscal year 2017 audit item standpoint, looking at, maybe if there's things new, really from an accounting standard standpoint, we didn't have a lot of new standards this year, which is uncommon. The accounting standard setting body has been very busy in terms of making new rules and disclosures for all government entities. And so from a preparer and an auditor standpoint, they continue to make our lives difficult. But this year was fairly easy. There was one new standard, Statement 77, relating to tax abatements. And so with that, there's some just disclosures of what they consider tax abatement programs. So really, as it relates to the city, really the property taxes that are kind of foregone for under those TIF agreements during that period is really the only thing that would be considered an abatement there. So there is in footnote M on page 70 of the financial report, there's just a short disclosure about that. From a debt issuance standpoint, there was a new Caterpillar lease and then also some revenue bonds from Boswa. That again, just from a new item this year, there's some additional disclosures of those on page 59 of the general nature of those transactions and how those are accounted for. And then just something to mention, it's not new this year, but just I wanted to point this out to the council that in addition to the city, as a whole, as you'd think, the Library Foundation, which is actually a separate non-for-profit legal entity, because of its relationship with the city, is considered a component unit. So those financials are actually brought in and are shown as part of the city's financials as a component unit. Their kind of separate piece is shown separately, but then it kind of gets aggregated together. And so that audit is actually performed by another set of auditors. And then there are some procedures we do to be able to place reliance on those, to put those as part of the city's financial statements. So just something to note from that standpoint. From an overall financial statement overview, the only things I wanted to mention, and to not go into a lot of the details and numbers specifically, within the report, early on there's going to be a section, it's called Management's Discussion Analysis. And this really is, again, this is a section completely written by city management, and it takes the financial statement figures and puts it in a little bit more of a condensed format. So you're not looking at all of the statements and all of the numbers and all of the disclosures. It's really about a 10 to 12 page section of this entire report that gives you a very high level overview of the city's financial activities and balances for the year. So you're not having to read the entire document. You can kind of get a feel for everything within the report in this shorter section. So if you have a little bit of time and not, I know everybody's going to want to go home tonight and read the entire document, but if you only have a little bit of time and need to focus it a little bit more than others, spend the time on that management's discussion analysis and give you a little more high-level view. After that, then, is the actual statements. I printed these separately just to kind of show you. These are the actual financial statements for the city, and so it shows it by various funds and activities. And then after that, then you have all of the kind of the other detail. So you have the footnotes to the funds, which provide background of what the items mean and how they're accounted for. And then there's a lot of combining and other information as part of the city's report then that shows you how you get kind of to what these financial statements look for. So again, the actual financial statements themselves, the figures are not as daunting as a section as if you look at the whole report, but to give you a little bit of background there. Moving on, the next deliverable then that you have, go back one more, Aaron, I'm sorry, if you can. Got it, perfect, thank you. Is that audit communication letter. And that's, I don't have the color copy of that, but you guys do. It's just a letter with our letterhead on the front. And this is a standard letter that we put into writing with various matters that the audit standards require communication to the council or to governance. And just to touch on a few of those items there, on the second page, if any accounting estimates, that there's a required communication there. So as part of the financial statement preparation process, any items in the financial statements that require a subjective determination. So it's not you can't point to a bank statement or an invoice and say, here's where I got that balance. It takes some subjectiveness to determine that. So there are several items listed there, any allowance for uncollectible accounts, any kind of the doubtful receivables, with capital assets for any city. The depreciation on those is always an estimate. The claims incurred but not reported, the IBNR, that's again determining, what's our estimate of that at year end. The accrued closure and post-closure care costs related to the landfill, determining what those are. And then as it relates to the Board of Public Works, the unbilled revenues. So again, looking at that consumption through year end that we haven't invoiced and billed yet, but still should be a part of our receivables. The next item then is any maybe more sensitive or significant disclosures to point out. We mentioned the determination of potential component units. The city has several between the Airport Authority, the Community Redevelopment Agency, BOSWA, and the Library Foundation, so kind of determining how that was kind of calculated and brought in. Any commitments and contingencies, so items that aren't sometimes necessarily recorded in the financials, and it's important to disclose those items. There are a few items listed there. And then I did mention that tax abatement disclosure. That is listed just because it's new, to kind of get maybe a little more familiarity with that disclosure. If we had any audit adjustments as part of our audit process, we did have one small adjustment as it related to the Board of Public Works piece of the engagement, and that is we do actually issue a separate audit report for the board, and but as part of the city's financial piece, overall we did not have any audit adjustments that affected kind of the city's financials outside of that small adjustment for the board. And then again, something that is not in the letter that I have listed as a bullet, internal control matters. So as part of our audit process, early on we're looking at segregation of duties. We're testing the internal controls. We do that every year as part of our audit process. So if there are certain reconciliations and other checks and balances and things that are supposed to be getting done as part of the control process, we actually test to make sure that's every year continuing to happen. From two standpoints, kind of protection for the city, but also from our audit standpoint, we have to make sure that those controls are in place so we can place reliance on the figures that we're getting as part of our audit process. So as part of that, if we had any control findings or issues that were to be reportable to governance, we'd have to list those in this letter. So I'm happy to report that as part of that test process, we did not have anything that rose to the level of a control deficiency that would need to be reported to the council tonight. The last thing from a kind of the other matter standpoint, any considerations, a lot of times as part of our audit process, we'll just bring best practices and recommendations to the city just as the process of making the closing process better, the financial reporting process, helping both sides of the audit process. So a lot of that we do verbally. And then we also list then in the letter a lot of new accounting standards. Like I mentioned, the standard setting bodies, they've been very busy in the requirements that a lot of government entities, not just cities, will have in the next few years. So I've listed a few of those in the letter. I won't go in those in detail tonight. We've talked with Linda on a few of those that'll have a little more impact in the near future. A few of them are a few years out. And so as we get closer, we'll definitely have some discussions of what the impact on the city's financial statements will be at that point. Any questions? I've just got a few other charts to kind of look at the financials from a high level. As part of the audit report, financials, or this letter. Any questions yet?
Chris, give me an example of what you look at in a control test.
Absolutely. So like I mentioned, in the first year of our engagement, we had Linda fill out a kind of a litany of control questionnaires and forms. And it really went through the process of, for example, within the cash outflows transaction cycle, okay, if a payment gets paid, I want you to tell me exactly the entire process and everything, controls also of when the invoice comes in the door, how that gets recorded in the system, how it gets approved, how does that invoice then in turn, result in a check that gets paid and approved and reviewed, and then how is, after the fact, how are is the bank reconciliation, how does that all tie together in one process? And so as part of looking at that, then we go through there and identify what are the key controls to ensure two things. One, to make sure that amount is recorded in the financial statements accurately, and also just to make sure that an individual will not be able to get a payment out the door from a fraudulent standpoint as well. So we're looking at kind of two pieces as part of that control. So if as part of any cash outflow cycle, one of the big things is that reconciliation at the end. You know, who's preparing the bank reconciliation, who's reviewing the bank reconciliation, and how timely is that getting done. So one of the controls we always test for almost any audit we have will be looking at bank reconciliations throughout the year, seeing how timely they're getting done. So that, you know, obviously if you're waiting 6 months to do your reconciliations, that's not a good control, because if something were wrong, it would take you that long to identify it. So making sure that they get done timely, making sure they're getting done by the right individuals within the organization, and then also once they're done, are they getting reviewed to make sure that all the pieces are there as well.
Thanks.
Okay. I added a few other slides, just again looking at it and saying, if you're without really looking into the financials, saying, well, what things should we be looking for? What's important for a city to look at? Obviously, with any municipality, especially with a city here in the state, taxes and property taxes are always a big thing. So looking year over year, just pulling some of the information from the report, and also kind of looking this from comparing it to budget as well. From 14 through 17, you can kind of see these step ups in valuation year to year. And then going to the next slide. Then looking at this then is comparing year to year, what was the actual request of our property tax? So what was the levy then that we collected on that valuation? So as you saw, there was a slight uptick every year in the valuation, seeing the same with the levy. So that's allowed the city to keep their mill levy, or what they're actually requesting from a levy rate standpoint from the taxpayers, have kept that consistent over that term as well. A few other things to look at, and a lot of times in looking at other cities, we compare this, is looking at the amount of the city's debt compared to maybe a few non-financial factors. So when we're looking at this, a few things we always look at is what is that outstanding governmental debt. So this does not include debt from the Board of Public Works or BOSWA. This is truly debt that would be funded by the full faith and credit of the cities, or just true taxpayer dollars. And looking at that as a percentage of or as a factor of your assessed valuation. So the valuation, that the property taxes that would be used to pay that debt, what is that ratio? And so we kind of pulled a peer group of other cities here in the state that are comparable in size, and looked at their same ratio and averaged them and compared that to the city. And again, with the city paying off some debt in the recent years and not taking on additional GO debt, that's allowed that factor to be much lower than the other cities. So again, from that standpoint, very low leverage compared to those other municipalities here in Nebraska. Go to slide to the next one here. This is looking at that same factor on the left, looking at that same debt factor as a percent of the population. And so again, like I mentioned, with that low GO debt, very favorable from a leverage standpoint with the peer group. And then the total debt then is taking the governmental debt that I mentioned, and that also then factors in any Board of Public Works debt and BOSWA debt in the total debt to the population. So again, fairly low leverage when you're comparing yourself to the peer group there. And then the last kind of just metric that we look at, and it's one that the rating agencies will look at as well when they're kind of looking at the financial sustainability and financial health of a municipality, is what is the general fund, so that the primary operating fund of a city, what is its kind of unrestricted balance as a percent of its operating expenditures? And they look at that to say if for some reason our revenue collection, our revenue sources were to be cut off today for whatever reason, how much would we have in our reserves to be able to pay our current expenditures if they came due, just as that percentage. So the GFOA is kind of the best practice organization for municipalities, says 2 months is kind of the benchmark that they look for. At year end, the city was at about 2.3 months of those expenditures. So again, right in that range. I think Linda has mentioned the city's goal is to kind of keep it in the 2 to 3 month range from that standpoint. So again, kind of staying in line with what the benchmark is, staying in line with what your current best practice is from that standpoint there. So that's, again, I wanted to cover things from a high level for you. If there's other questions, anything like that, maybe that come up after today, I'm sure Linda would be able to put myself in touch with you if you wanted to. Any questions for me at this point?
Any questions, gentlemen? Anyone from the public?
I guess I have one question. I don't know if it's for him, but I look on like page 7 with their debt per capita. Where total debt population is Beatrice 460, peer groups 2,994. There you go. As I look at that, are we not taxing enough that we should have had, but increasing that over time and been closer to our peer groups? Or does it?
It shows that you haven't borrowed money. That's what you haven't done. You haven't issued debt either on the city side or on the utility side far more than your peers have.
Very low leverage.
Said we're doing a better job than some of the other cities.
Not necessarily true.
I just look at that and wonder if maybe we could have, over time, brought on more debt and got more infrastructure and things done. I'm just throwing that out, you know. I've only been here 20 years, so I guess it'd be my fault for not bringing that up, but, you know.
Well, if you want to borrow some money, I'm sure we can find some projects for you. We'll bring those
right.
forward.
I've got some in mind. I have
Any
2
other
years
questions?
left.
Anyone from the audience? Chris, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks for the report. Abby, thanks for coming along. Appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the rezoning application of Samuel G. and Judy K. Wright of the proposed Lot 1 of Bear Bottom Subdivision, Gage County, parcel ID number 004171000, City of Beatrice, Gage County, Nebraska, from AG Agricultural to RR Rural Residential.
So if you look at the map that we have pulled up here, it's also in your package. You'll see this is out by Bear Creek, just on the outskirts of our 2-mile zoning jurisdiction. It's a current farmstead. They're looking to essentially carve off the homestead. That's what they're looking to rezone, is that area, the homestead area, from ag to rural residential to meet our current zoning regulations. So that property can then be sold and retain the acreage, or excuse me, retain the farm acres after that. So it's been reviewed by Planning and Zoning. They did recommend approval of this item tonight.
Questions, anyone? From the public? All right, Mr. Catlin.
Mayor, I would move that the public hearing be closed at 7:26 p.m.
Moved by Catlin, second by Billsbach, that the public hearing be closed at 7:26 p.m. Your vote, please. That is approved, 7-0. Next is resolution number 6197, executing confirmation letter number 2 to confirm a transaction between the City of Beatrice and Lincoln Electric System, increasing the amount of capacity purchased to account for the accelerated transition as recommended by the Board of Public Works. Tobias.
Mayor, I would move that resolution number 6197 be passed and adopted.
Second.
By Catlin, second by Morgan, that resolution number 6197 be passed and adopted. Tobias?
As you recall, as we move away from MPPD over the next couple of years, we have energy agreements lined up with AEP, and we have capacity agreements lined up with LES. Initially, when we bought those, we were under the impression that we could exit 30% the first year, 10% the next year, 10% the following year before we could finally exit MPPD completely. So a 30-10-10 exit. The courts have decided that we can leave on a 30% the first year, 30% the next year, and 30% the following year, so 30-30-30, which leaves us with a shortfall then in years 2 and 3. This agreement before you tonight is from LES to fill in capacity for the second and third year of your exit from MPPD, so 2019 and 2020. It fills in the capacities you need for those 2 years. It also gives you long-term, or gives you some capacity for, I believe, 21 and 22 as you exit and are completely gone from MPPD as well.
Tip?
Yeah, I got these pages emailed, and after I read them, I can honestly say I didn't have a full comprehension of what was going on there. So I'm glad you kind of gave me the Reader's Digest version of that. My question is that in those time periods, in those years where we have the 30% in the first 2, LES has nothing to do with it. We can't piggyback on any of their work. I mean, we have to wait till we get 60% gone or 90% gone.
You already have an agreement with LES to provide you capacity in 2019.
Okay. Okay,
So January 1 is when you start to move away from MPPD of next year, so 2001 of 19.
All right.
You already have an agreement with LES for capacity that year.
okay,
This is capacity in 2020 to fill in what you're short, and 21 to fill in what you're short, and then moving forward, the full capacity you need for the next 2 years, I believe.
okay. All right. I didn't get that. All right, I understand it now. So I didn't, as I read through that, I just couldn't put that together. Thank you. I got it now.
Rich?
The cost factors in 20 and 21 the same as 19.
No,
It's
the
gonna
cost
cost
goes
us-
up a little bit every year.
Okay, any other questions, gentlemen, from the audience? All right, your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Resolution number 6197 has been passed and adopted. Next is resolution number 6198, entering into a confirmation agreement with Next Era Energy Marketing LLC for the purchase of additional electric energy from January 1st, 2020 through December 21st, 2021 to account for the accelerated transition as recommended by the Board of Public Works.
Mayor, I would move that resolution number 6198 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Party, that resolution number 6198 be passed and adopted.
Same song, different verse. So what we just talked about was capacity. This has to do with energy. Again, as we leave, we went out for RFPs, and Next Era came in with the best price for energy that we need in 2020 and 2021. They'll fill in those two short gaps that we had from our initial agreement with AEP. AEP will still be your market participant. They'll still schedule everything, but Next Era will provide you with a block of energy that you need to meet your needs. This is Next Era Energy Marketing LLC is related to the Next Era that you have an agreement with Cottonwood Wind Farm. They're affiliated companies, but different.
So are they buying energy straight off the grid? Do we know where they're getting that, or is that renewable energy as well?
They're buying energy off the market is what they're doing. We have to let them know as soon as possible if we're going to do this, because they're going to go out and do their hedges and everything else to make sure they can continue to offer the prices
Okay.
that they've given us. So I can't tell you that it'll be renewable. I can't tell you that it won't be.
Right.
Could be a combination.
Okay. Well, part of it is, the lion's share of what we're going to be getting is going to be renewables, and so that was my question: is that what they, is it germane to them or not? From my vantage point or my view, I would like to see us at 100% of that. And if you're going to buy a percentage that you're lacking, I was just wondering if that fit into that category. That's all.
At this point, it doesn't. We just went out for the best price.
Okay.
Can't say it will be or won't be. Once you're gone from MPPD completely, then we can talk about bringing the
Right.
wind energy from Cottonwood to Beatrice
Right.
and having that delivered here.
Yep. Okay.
Other questions, gentlemen? The public? All right, your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Resolution number 6198 has been passed and adopted. Next is resolution number 6199, executing a subordination agreement with Porter Houses LLC and Horizon Bank to subordinate the security interests of the city to the superior indebtedness of Horizon Bank.
Mayor, I would move that resolution number 6199 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that resolution number 6199 be passed and adopted.
As the memo in your packet states, this is part of the Excel development project going on at the hospital area. We had an agreement with them when we loaned them the LB 840 funds that once they found permanent financing, we would subordinate our loan to that permanent financer. They have secured that. This time it is for the workforce housing project. It's the same agreement that we did for the senior living project. So everything else is essentially the same as we've done prior. We will subordinate to Horizon Bank on this project.
Questions, comments, concerns? All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Resolution number 6199 has been passed and adopted. Next is item D, resolution number 6200, authorizing Southeast Nebraska Development District, also known as SEND, to complete and submit the NIFA LB 518 match program application and LB 518 grant application to the Department of Economic Development on behalf of the City of Beatrice.
Mayor, I would move that resolution number 6200 be passed and adopted.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, second by Morgan, that resolution 6200 be passed and adopted. Further discussion.
So this is the project we talked about, I think, the last two meetings. I think the only difference really is last time we weren't sure if it was 250 or 200,000. The number I've heard from Send is $200,000, so that's why you see in the resolution a confirmation of $200,000 as they move this project forward. I think you also sent out the email that indicated that DED made the comment that our LB 840 funds are $200,000 will remain in the city of Beatrice. The matching funds that you get either from DED or from NIFA are what then can be spread throughout those that are part of our group with us. So our money stays in Beatrice, Deschler money stays in Deschler, but the revolving loan fund or the matching grants is what can move from one community to the other.
So our dollars stay right here, goes into revolving loan fund. The rest of it goes into the consortium of 4 different communities. Questions? Dwight?
So it's 4 people have signed on, counting us? 4
I know
think
of
it's
4
Deschler, Auburn, Geneva.
and us, and I want to say there's a 5th because they're asking for 200, not 250, but I haven't been able to find out who that 5th community is yet, so I don't know for sure. I don't know if there is one, if there's not one.
So each of these separate groups would ask one person to sit on a subcommittee to do all this. Is there anybody else on that committee we know of? Just the 4 that have money involvement?
Those should be the only 4 that should be at the table. I'm assuming Send will be there as an ex officio member, basically to keep track of what everybody wants to do. But I would anticipate it would just be those communities that put money into the pot would be the ones that are at the table deciding what programs move forward, how they decided, all those important things.
Rich has a question, but I
Rich?
have one too.
Okay.
You said either or DOJ and NIFA are both, or NIFA are both matching the funds, correct?
You'll apply to NIFA, NIFA will match first, and then you'll apply to DED and they will match.
So with this fund that we've got, not the money that we're keeping, do we have to expend our money before we can go in to get the extra, or can we go to the extra first?
I think you can do it either way. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong way to do it. It'll probably depend on the project. I would assume that, if Deschler has a large project that's more than their local match, obviously they'll have to go into the pool first. If Beatrice's program only calls for our match or a little less, you probably just mess with our dollars. But I don't know there's set in stone that you have to use your money first before you get the pool money. I think it's all just kind of into a pot, and you kind of just draw from it.
Ted?
Okay, so I'm still a no on this thing. I really like the project. I think it's a good idea, but but it's still public funds, and I can't. I don't know who we're doing business with, the other communities. We don't know everybody that's in the group. We don't know who the representatives are of those groups, and we haven't been told on our local level what our project is. So there's just too many. I think it's a good project. I think it will probably work. I like the fundamental of it. I like the idea of it. I just for me, there's just too many unknowns to be a yes, and I think I'm going to probably be wrong on the deal. I think it'll probably be fine, but I'm not comfortable enough to vote yes on it, so that's where I'm at.
Okay.
So,
Bob?
And this may be a bad analogy, but I'm just trying to follow up. In a lot of respects, though, it's just like the matching retirement fund that I get at the college. Whatever I put in, they'll match. So in a lot of respects, the 200 is going to turn into 400. So we're going to see 100% rate of return within the allocation.
And literally goes to 800.
And then it goes to 800, so really doubling. I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, it's a pretty good investment. I'd like to have that in my retirement account right now.
market went down 300 points today.
Ouch. Thanks.
I guess my other question would be, and I was like Ted, I was a definite no on this before we got the email saying that our money, the 200,000, has to stay in this town. Who decides where we're going to do that $200,000? Is it just one person out of that 4 group, or all 4 of those are going to decide what Beatrice needs for their money?
Well, it's project-driven, and so...
I know, but if we decide we need $200,000, just say it's 6 in court right in the center for something, them 4 people on that committee are going to decide if we need it or not, or get it?
I wouldn't think so. I think
Not
if
the
it's
town
local,
of Beatrice?
I would think if it's local dollars, your local committee would be the one who decides that. And when I'm looking at local committee, I'm thinking this body here is going to be the one that says, that's the project we want to fund locally. I need 200, I need 250. Our representative go get us the other 50 out of the pool.
Maybe.
Because the rules aren't set yet, that's the bad part, but as long as we're keeping our money with us,
You've got to be approved for the application before you can sit at the table to make the rules. That's
Right.
kind of the chronological order.
Yep.
sometimes. But lots of times, I'd like to see the rules first before you start throwing money at it. It's like playing poker without knowing what game you're going to play first. Put your money in, we'll tell you what you're going to play.
Got a good dealer, you're okay though, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're the dealer, you're fine.
Rich?
I want to go back a minute. You said something, Toby, that just hit me. You said we have to apply for NIFA and we have to apply for the DOD. Does that mean they can turn us down?
Yes. Sure. Yeah, their application.
So there is not a guarantee that we put in 200 that we're going to get 400 on that return, like Bob was saying. We could just possibly have 200,000 in there, and our NIFA.
200 in it.
Huh?
If we're not approved, you're not even going to have your
We're
200 in it.
applying right now, right?
It's just
just
applying.
just a
No
grant
check needed
application.
right now, yeah.
No money needed.
Right.
No, they just need confirmation that if you do apply and you are accepted, you'll follow through with the money that you said that you would.
Yep.
But yes, it's just a grant application. If you're not awarded, it's over. It's done. Done project. We bring you the next thing and we look at it.
Bill?
The thing I like about this is with the 200,000 from us, everybody else 200,000, what that could drive for southeast Nebraska just in commerce. If that turns over 6 times like normal retail would, that's a $6 million boom for southeast Nebraska. It might not be just Beatrice, it could be Auburn or whatever, but somewhere somebody's got to build these apartments or remodel. So that would be just good for the whole southeast Nebraska.
Any other comments or questions before we vote on this? Anyone from the public? All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. That is approved 6-1 with Councilman Fairbanks voting no. Resolution number 6200 has been passed and adopted. Next item is an ordinance. Ordinance approving the plat of the Bear Bottom subdivision, Gage County, Nebraska.
Mayor, I would move that said ordinance be given number 18-004. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Kerr, that the ordinance be given number 18-004, title thereof approved, rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by title only 3 times tonight. A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-004 by number the first time, ordinance number 18-004 by number the second time, and ordinance number 18-004 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I would move that ordinance number 18-004 be passed and approved.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that ordinance number 18-004 be passed and approved. Do we need any further discussion on this item? Yes, sir.
Do they use our utilities out that far, or will they be?
They're on our electric system out there.
Nothing else?
Nothing else. There's no water. I don't believe there's any water that runs out that far, and I know there's no sewer that runs out that far.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, gentlemen, your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-004 has been passed and adopted. Next is ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Beatrice, Nebraska by changing the zoning of Lot 1, Bear Bottom subdivision, Gage County, Nebraska, from AG agricultural to RR rural residential.
Mayor, I move that said ordinance be given number 18-005. The title therefore be approved, the rules be suspended, and said ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Cook, that the ordinance be given number 18-005, title thereof approved, rules suspended, and the ordinance be read by number only 3 times tonight. Motion to suspend the rules is not debatable. Your vote, please. That is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-005 by number the first time, ordinance 18-005 by number the second time, and ordinance number 18-005 by number the third and final time.
Mayor, I move that ordinance number 18-005 be passed and approved.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, that ordinance number 18-005 be approved. Any further discussion on this item? Gentlemen, anyone from the public? All right, your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Ordinance number 18-005 has been passed and adopted. Next item on the agenda is the public forum. Purpose of the public forum is for the presentation of an item by the general public to the city council for consideration at a later date. No discussion or action will be taken by the city council at this time. Gentlemen, anything for the public forum? Tobias and I and Rick Claybaugh attended the groundbreaking ceremony at Porter Estates, location of the old Beatrice Community Hospital. And as soon as that groundbreaking ceremony was over, they started tearing down the building. So drive by the building sometime and you're going to see quite a bit of a transformation in very short order. Probably have it down in a week. Rich, did you have something?
Yes, again, I'd like to congratulate the chief and his folks. This last Saturday, they had the
Basketball tournament?
basketball tournament for the Special Olympics, and they did a good job again, Chief. Thank you very much. Yes, one of these days you guys are gonna have
Bring your brothers.
cheat or something. I don't know.
You're like
You're
a
vertically
hard
challenged,
globetrotter.
Chief.
You just- yeah.
And the generals.
Those kids are just pounding them every year.
Okay, continuing on, City Administrator's Monthly Report. I'm sorry, does the public have anything for the public forum? All right. Oh, come on in, Don.
Yes, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Don Schuler, and I'm running for state senator for Legislative District 30. And I've lived in southern Gage County all my life, near Wymore Farm there. Farmed all my life and worked for the Natural Resources Conservation Service for 30 years, helping farmers solve their erosion problems. And I've enjoyed doing that. Still do that by running a small business where a farmer can hire me to come help them with their erosion problems if NRCS is unavailable, or even if they are available, as far as that goes. But I was approached to run for state senator, and in this past year and a half, I've been active and been concerned about the property taxes. I believe that we need to, and I'm a person that will stand up and speak up and make things happen if I don't agree with what's going on. I don't like to sit around and wait. I'm, I guess, rather impatient that way. So that's, I guess, why people approach me to run. And I decided to run for 2 major reasons, is because of the property tax issue, and I believe in an independent legislature. And I want to maintain our independent legislature. I'm proud of it, and I think we can set a good example to our country. We always have set a good example by our nonpartisan legislature. But I want to do things to bring people into Nebraska rather than scare them away from Nebraska. We pay a premium here to live here in Nebraska. I love it here, and I want my children to stay here, and we need to bring people in so that we can be more prosperous. And I do not want to raise taxes to reduce our property taxes. I believe in bringing new revenue into the state. I'm tired of squeezing money out of the same people all the time. Our citizens of Beatrice, Gage County, and the Legislative District 30, I think, are at their limits. I mean, if we can shift tax from property taxes to sales or income, I do not want to do that if we can help it. I think we need to add new revenue. But thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Don. Anybody want equal time?
Wednesday night.
That's right, Wednesday night candidate forum here, so.
All right. Monthly report.
Monthly report, again, just a couple of highlights that they have out there. WPC, they're putting in their bar screen. I realize nobody in this room probably cares what that is or knows what it is, but for those in the industry, it's really important and they're really excited by it. We'll get a chance, we'll get the media down there. They can take some nice pictures and tour it. But essentially, this is the first step in cleaning the sewer water that comes into that facility, removing all the solids out of it. It makes your process run more efficient. Other than that, it's not too exciting. It is a process we can add that regardless of what we have to do down that plant moving forward with the new process, that piece of machinery will still be installed, it'll still work, it'll still do what it's designed to do. So it's kind of upgrading that plant as we move forward. If you haven't noticed the big giant signs out, the Highway 77 project starts April 2nd. So all of you who drive north or south on Highway 77 from Industrial Row, at least out to Pickerel or better, plan a little longer drives. It's going to be down to one lane most of the time, so just be prepared. Don't get upset about it. Just know it. Add an extra 10 minutes to your trip. But that's starting on just after Easter. We opened bids this week on Thursday for Bell Street from 10th to 12th and Summit Street 7th to 9th. Those two bid openings are this week, and so we'll have those, see what those come in at. The Carnegie Building, contrary to what's been said, it's not crumbling. We were doing just fine. We did have some guys in. They did make some repairs. The plaster on the inside, as you walked inside the front door, essentially just was coming loose off the walls. And so they just had to take it off and reapply it. It stuck for a number of years. It just didn't stick for much longer. So, and then in the cornice that goes around, what we found, we got up inside there. Essentially, there was nothing holding the cornice up. All the plaster and lath had been cut away, and so it was just kind of there. And over time, it just slowly the nails let go. So that's how it was starting to slide down. They've re-secured everything, patched it up. It looks nice. There are still some other areas that need to be addressed. We did not address them all, but we are working on it and getting it fixed up. So it is back to better condition than it was, 2 weeks ago. But that project is done. It's moving forward. It's not collapsing. We don't need a bulldozer. So we'll have to wait and wait. And finally, we do have a new police officer, Jack Schumett, has gone from a dispatcher to fill a position we had open in the police department. And so the new officer's out in field training now and will eventually go to the academy and be ready to go. So other than that, any questions you might have, happy to answer them.
Any questions of Tobias? All right. The next meeting of the City Council is going to be on April 2nd, and then we will have a work session next Monday night right in these chambers. Mr. Catlin, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Mayor, I would move that the Beatrice City Council go into closed session at 7:51 p.m. for the protection of public interest to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, which is imminent as evidenced by communication of a claim or threat of litigation to or by the public body.
Second.
Moved by Catlin, seconded by Morgan, that the City Council goes into executive session at 7:51 p.m. for the protection of public interest. Your vote, please. And that is approved 7-0. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.